Welcome new and old friends. My name is 242, and today 42 brought back the Basement series. We're now on part 6. Today, As the Raven Dreams and hair-raising narratives will be joining me to tell this story. So, turn off your lights, make sure your doors and windows are locked. Things are about to get spooky. The DoorDash driver thought his GPS might be broken, since his destination kept moving. Then he saw the house stroll up on giant chicken legs. You have arrived at your destination. I was never allowed into the basement. I finally found out why. Part 6 by FleetSteps. Consider the concept of infinity. It's jarring. Something so abstract that our brains can't count it, or even properly imagine it. Go ahead, try. You can't, can you? Because whatever your imagination conjures up to represent it isn't enough. That's the thing. It doesn't make sense. It exists everywhere. If you take the number 1 and 2, getting from one point to the other is easy. Start at 1 and at 2. 1 plus 1 equals 2. It's easy. It makes sense. What doesn't make sense is the infinity between the two numbers, because between 1 and 2, there is indeed an infinity of decimals. So many that you, your children, and your children's children could all count for the rest of your lives, and you never even get close, because it's fucking infinity. Nevertheless, the infinity starts at 1 and ends at 2. Simple. Brain-numbingly complex. Now that's what I call a goddamn paradox. Beginning, end, start, finish. 2 points, infinity between them. I think somewhere in one of those small yet endless infinities is me. I started counting from 1 to 2, and I can't stop. Can I reach the end that I know has to exist? If I just keep counting, will I get from 1 to 2? Can I stop myself from even counting to begin with? Falling through the void was slightly different this time. I'm not quite sure how to explain, but this time around, it felt like maybe I was just more awake, more conscious of what was happening. I remember the roaring had filled my ears, followed by the all-consuming pain, and Tara had clutched my hand as we screamed in agony. I could no longer feel her grip, but I somehow knew she was still close. The peaceful bliss filled my soul, and I fell through an endless void for an infinity amount of time. Yet somehow, it was only an instant. Finally, I felt the movement of air and remembered how badly I needed to breathe. I gasped for breath, and icy air filled my lungs. I heard the thunder and felt the rain colliding with my body. Remembering what had happened on my first trip, I threw my good hand behind my head, just as my body impacted with the cold ground. My head crushed my hand, but at least I wouldn't have a concussion. I lay there for a while, motionless and staring up at the night sky that was dropping rain on my body. I flexed my hand that had been crushed. Felt like it would be bruised, but at least nothing was broken. It was freezing, but just knowing that this was my Earth made it feel amazing. I smiled. "We made it, Tara," I finally announced. "Welcome home." Upon receiving no response, a sense of unease came over me. I called out for Tara again, still hearing nothing back. I sat up and finally took a look around. Fenway had told me the bridge should take us relatively close to where it had last been used, and I was relieved to see that he was correct and that I recognized the surrounding area. I was about 10 miles from home, laying in a field behind the highway that shoots through town. I knew so because down the road a bit, a streetlight lit up the sign for the same exit I used to take to get to high school. All things considered, I wasn't too far off course. My relief was short-lived though, as I still couldn't locate Tara anywhere. I pulled out my phone that had somehow survived my trip into hell with some battery life to spare. I was annoyed to see I had no service out here, which meant that we had to walk a bit or try to flag down a car for a ride. Using the flashlight app on my phone, I began to search for Tara in the surrounding area. There was nothing but grass around me. After a few minutes, I was still unable to find her, and I was starting to get seriously worried. Not only was I worried for her safety, but she had also been carrying the syringe of serum for May in her bag. I tried to calm myself. I had felt Tara in the void with me, and I knew she was close by. After a few more minutes of fruitless shouting, I spotted a pickup truck coming around the bend in the highway. I decided to try and flag it down and asked if they could use their brights on the field so I could get a better look. Odd conversation to have with someone, but worth it to find Tara. As I started to lightly jog towards the road, a knot began to form in my stomach, and the sense of unease I felt started to grow. Soon, the wrongness of this began to fill my thoughts. Not just about Tara either. This somehow went deeper than that. I tried to shake it off and began waving my phone light at the truck. It was dark out, so they'd certainly see the bright light. To my annoyance, they didn't seem to slow down at all though. In fact, they were actually going pretty fast for this windy stretch of road. This isn't right. I saw the lights from another car come from the other direction, and figured if the truck wouldn't stop, I could always try to flag that one down instead. I was still a little bit away from the road when the truck came around the bend and its headlights lit up the flat stretch of the highway in front of me. My heart dropped when I spotted the unconscious form of who could only be Tara laying right in the middle of the road. The driver must not have seen her because they were still coming down the road at full speed. Not only that, but the truck seemed to be drifting within the lane, ever so slightly. Holy shit, this guy's going fast. Why are they driving like that? Fuck! I broke into a dead sprint, wildly waving my flashlight in the oncoming vehicle, screaming my head off. I was screaming Tara's name, but she still didn't move. The sedan on the other side of the road was approaching now as well, and began to slow down, likely seeing Tara's body in the road. I glanced over at the car and realized something about it was vaguely familiar, like it was a small piece of a puzzle from a forgotten dream. If they could see Tara, how the fuck could this asshole in the truck not? The truck was practically on top of Tara now. There was no time to drag her out of the way. The only thing I could do was run into the middle of the road and flail my light around like a madman. If I could survive murderous mutants from a hellish universe, playing chicken with a speeding pickup truck was child's play. But at the last second, the driver veered sharply, and I heard the sound of brakes squealing. But it was raining, and the roads were wet and slick. Instead of regaining control, the pickup truck flew off the roads and onto the grassy median. It didn't stop there. The pickup truck popped out of the median and onto the opposite side of the road before once again swerving. I watched on helplessly.
It can't correctly account for temporal variance.
Tom's voice echoed through my mind, and suddenly I knew what was happening. Why everything felt so fucked up right away. It was impossible, yet happening all the same. Instead of continuing a straight fucking path that would have dispatched him safely into a field on the other side of the highway, he turned the fucking steering wheel again to try to stay on the highway.
They left.
I know. Right before the pickup truck collided head-on with the small sedan that had come to a halt. For an endless moment, its headlights lit up the inside of the car.
He blew a .22.
And I saw two people inside, their faces contoured into terrified screams that would haunt me for the rest of my life. My heart shattered into a million pieces as I watched their lives end. Two people that I missed very much. Two people I was certain I never see again. Two people whose graves I've been visiting for the past 10 years. My mother's Parkinson's has gotten so bad she can barely hold anything without dropping it. I always make her soup for every meal, as it's so much fun watching her spill the boiling hot soup all over herself. And with that, we come to the conclusion of Part 6. I'd like to thank As the Raven Dreams and Hair Raising Narratives for joining me to tell this story. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome. Now, if you enjoyed this video, you better hit that like button and make sure it feels it. And of course, the finale, Part 7, will be coming out soon, so you better subscribe and turn that pretty little bell to all notifications. Remember, if you'd like to help this channel/podcast, share it with anyone you think might like it. And if you'd like to help in other ways, I have a Patreon, PayPal, and merch. All the links are in the usual places. Now, I would love a comment in the comment section below or on Twitter, so let me get you that Sunday word first. To start with, of course, I'm going to show you what I got last week, and thank you everyone who submitted something. This Sunday word is demonstration, DEMONSTRATE, which means to give a practical exposition and explanation of how a machine, skill, or craft works or is performed, or clearly show the existence or truth of something by giving proof or evidence. So, you guys know what to do from here. But as always, guys, thank you for watching and listening. It's awesome, and we're well over 500 at this point, and it's amazing. Thank you guys. Sleep tight, and don't let 42 bite.